Okay. We are back. Um, as usual, just do my routine checks, man. This just becomes a meme at this point. I should start cutting it out of the VODs, but for the stream, I think it's funny. Just gotta make sure everything's working. Okay, excellent connection. Good. Good, that's working. That's paused. Is my chat working? If you're in chat, say hi. Um, Also, is this working? Okay, yeah, there we go. But yes, Chelsea versus Villa in the FA Cup. Hi, welcome in. Um, that was that was one of the games of football of all time. I think I think it's safe to say. Not really much I can kind of talk about, and it's a weird feeling for this game in particular because it's a disappointing result, but it's also not a terrible result at the same time. Um, it was a bit of a bit of a bit 50-50 in a way, and a lot of my kind of points are going to be kind of 50-50 points in this one. Obviously, a replay is not what we wanted, and to be quite honest, I think replays are an absolutely stupid idea. I said this on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen me say this, but any knockout cup competition should just immediately go to penalties, if not extra time and pens. I just find replays completely stupid and nonsensical. It doesn't benefit either team. Like, neither team wants to have a replay. They want to just either win or just get out, get the competition over. Obviously, we've now got to go to Villa Park, which is going to be much more difficult than winning a game here at the Bridge. And we've also got a game against Liverpool next, as someone so rightly said in chat. Well, I'll get onto this. I'll get onto how we played because overall, I think we've played quite well. In fact, I'll actually hang on. Let me just get the intro and stuff out of the way, and I'll come onto the main screen so I can talk with the music behind. One sec. Here. Lads, lasses, and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC, and this is GBU Live. Okay, welcome back to GBU Live, which I said I was going to change, I was going to rebrand this before the Middlesbrough game, and I just did not have any time over those 10 days. It's great, you think, oh, I've got a 10-day break, I can get stuff done, and I wasn't able to get anything done, because, as I said, personal things have gone in the way. I'm in the process of trying to move house, etc. That just, everything's just overwhelming, I couldn't really get things done, but I do have an idea, and I'll pitch this to the chat before I continue on my point. I'm thinking of calling this series, I'm going to be changing it, I'm going to be calling it Feeling Blue instead, because this is the videos and the streams where I kind of more speak personally and kind of talk about like how I feel about games rather than like being statistical and analytical. But yeah, that's kind of the direction I think I'm going to take this. If you guys have any other suggestions for names or such and such, just leave them in the comments if you're watching this on the VOD, or in the chat, I'll read them. But yeah, so let's get back to the game. So this was another one of those typical Chelsea performances where we create a lot of chances, we don't take any of them, and we go home sad. Which kind of feels like, at this point, it happens so often that I'm just used to it. Like, it doesn't feel like, I don't feel like we got defeated, really. Obviously, this is a draw, but it feels more like a defeat than a win. And it just feels like, I don't know. It's just such an odd feeling. It's like, it feels like we've lost, but we haven't. And it's kind of cool. We go to Villa Park. That's going to be a struggle, but like, we're still in the cup. That's the main thing. The main thing is we are still in the cup. And like my preview said, we are now 10 games unbeaten at the Bridge, which is very, very good. We can take solace in the fact that we have gone 10 games unbeaten, and that kind of gives us the platform to spring off of. And I think for the most part we did play well in this game when we did create the chances, as I said, but it's just the lack of finishing, and it just shows what I've been saying and what everyone else has been saying, is that a lack of a centre forward is the main issue at Chelsea, and it will be until we get one in. Obviously, it's looking very likely that in the summer we will be getting Victor Osimhen, who probably would solve all those problems. we'll see if that happens. It's from what I've been seeing from reports, it looks like it says like 89 to 120 million euros seems to be the price tag that Napoli is setting on the Nigerian. So we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. But let's get straight into the points now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points for this video. And as I said, this is probably going to be... Oh, this is going to be sad. This is probably going to be the last ever GBU on the channel. Unless I don't get the time to change it between between now and the next game, which is Liverpool, I believe. We play Liverpool in the Premier League. But let's get into the first good, and I think everyone can kind of agree that this player is going to be in here, and it's for a player that I'm surprised is actually in here because I didn't expect him to play, and that's Alfie Gilchrist. I think he was really, really solid for the around 65 minutes that he played, and the thing which is more important to me and the thing which is more impressive to me about it is not only did he play well, he played well out of position, and he also played well with basically no notice that he was actually going to play in this game. He was originally supposed to be on the bench with Levi Colwill playing at left back, but Colwill got injured in the warm-up, which is another thing which we can't get away from it. Injury FC strikes again. I didn't do a bingo card for this game because I forgot, but that if Injury FC was on there, that would have been ticked off. But yeah, so Gilchrist comes into the lineup instead. He plays at right back with Badia Shield shifting over to left back, who I also thought had a pretty decent game, apart from a few shaky moments. And yeah, he just a very solid performance, and I think he went kind of unnoticed. And as a defender, that's one of the things you kind of want to be. You don't want to be you don't want to be in the limelight. You just want to get your job done and just defend well, and obviously a clean sheet kind of proves that he did that. We'll move straight on to the bad now, because this is, again, I say bad, it's not bad, I have to reiterate this every single time. This is the medium box. Let's go into the medium box. I'm going to be giving it to our manager, and that is Mauricio Pochettino. And the reason why I'm putting him in here is because I think the first half and some of the second half too, I think the game plan and the tactics on point, absolutely on point, no complaints. The way that we pressed, the way that we dominated the midfield, the way that we, in a way, kind of out-villaed Villa by putting on that pressure and not letting them playing a high line and not letting them get in behind, with Petrovic acting as a sweeper, which is basically what Aston Villa do with Martinez, who was excellent in this game, by the way. If I was rating other players, Martinez would be in the good box. He would be in his own separate box that's not even good, because he kept them in this game. But yeah, the reason why I've demoted him down to the medium box, though, is because, once again, this always seems to happen. After a good spell from Pochettino, I'm like, oh yes, I'm getting back on board with you, you're doing the things which I like. He then just makes his substitutes too late, or makes the wrong substitutes, or does something in the in-game management that just doesn't make sense, and it just infuriates me. It just really, really infuriates me. Because this was a very, very winnable game, and we had a lot of dominance in this game. But he decides to leave Mudryk, Broja, Carney completely just leave them on the bench for I think about 75 minutes, and you need to give your attacking players off the bench time. You need to give them time to not only get into the game and warm up and get to the speed of the game, but time to actually do something, because 15 minutes is not a lot of time in football, especially at the end of a game when that the team that's trying to hold on to the draw or hold on for the replay is just going to waste time as soon as they're able to. When he did make the changes, obviously Broja didn't have the greatest game, nor did Mudryk, nor did Carney. Well, Carney got about 2 minutes, I think. I don't even know how long he was on the pitch for. But the fact that Gallagher stayed on the pitch for as long as he did after the performance he put in, and he's not actually one of my points. I think he was so kind of just that I didn't even consider him for a box in this one, because I just don't want to talk about Gallagher, because technically he is so poor, and I don't understand why he was on the pitch for as long as he was. Carney should have, and I know that he's got to manage Carney's minutes because he's coming back from a long-term injury, but I do not see why Carney could not have at least played 35 minutes in this game and tried to come on and impact the game. Even, I think he probably could have come out for another player, which I'll be putting into the red box at some point in this video, but what I am going to now move on to in this ugly box is just for the missed chances and just our finishing in general. I'm going to put this big red X over it. That's not very... As a colorblind person, this is awful, I apologize. But this is just for missed chances, and as we spoke about it at the start, just awful finishing today all round. I said in my preview that being clinical would be so vital in this game, and it proved it. It proved my point, because we didn't take our chances, and then we lost. Well, again, not a loss, but it feels like we lost. Because it feels like going for a replay at Villa Park. It just feels like we're going to lose that second game, and even though we haven't lost, it just feels like, considering how much dominance we had in this game, it feels like we were the ones that should have won and didn't win. But yeah, so just for our finishing, and I said this before, until we get a centre forward that can actually start firing, or we start getting more actual attacking like patterns of play, because it doesn't really seem that there are strategies in play. You can see that we have strategies. It's to play it to the wings, but it kind of feels like Poch's kind of game plan for a lot of the games is just get it out to the wings and see if the wingers make something happen, and it doesn't seem like there's actual kind of dedicated plans of like, okay, when it goes out to the wings, this player needs to do this player needs to do this, we need to get our player that's playing in the centre forward position, whether that's Palmer or Gallagher when they rotate in, needs to be at this point when it goes out there, and it doesn't feel like we have that. And it just kind of we just kind of get chances that don't really make sense, and it's just like, oh cool, we've got a chance here, and because they're so unprepared for that chance to happen, I think that's partly the reason why our chances don't get taken. And as I said, I will talk about a specific player that I think's finishing was very woeful in this game, and I think he had a very poor game, and he will be going into this box. But before I do that, let's go back into the goods, because I do like to be positive on the channel, and I think for the most part this is a positive result for us, because again, we're not out of the cup. That's the main thing, we're not out of the cup. And the reason we are not out of the cup is because of one man, I believe, and it's for our Serbian shot stopper, that is Georgi Petrovic, or Georgia Petrovic rather. This man has proven time and time again that 14 million for him was an absolute bargain. He is looking, every single day that he plays, he is looking the part. He's looking like our number one, and he just looks like the real deal. He doesn't seem to get beaten. He doesn't really get beaten by anything that's not spectacular. I mean, the goal that he conceded against Middlesbrough the other day was right in the bottom corner, and he almost got to it. I genuinely don't think that we have had a goalkeeper that has been this much of a bargain since we bought Petrovic. Genuinely, I don't think we've had a goalkeeper that has been as good as he is, and as consistent as he is, might I add, because he's very consistent, and not only is he a good shot stopper, he's really confident when the ball goes back to him. He calms the defence down when there's pressure on the defence, and he's very good at claiming high balls too, and just letting all of that kind of that unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves when we start having those moments in games, he kind of alleviates, and he made some absolutely vital saves to keep this 0-0. Especially the one from Matty Cash. Matty Cash took a strike with his left boot, which was heading straight for the corner, and I genuinely don't know how he can be beaten, unless it's a worldie. Unless it's a worldie, it doesn't go in against Petrovic, and I think that he is really starting to cement himself as his number one, and it's going to be a real big selection headache for Pochettino when Sanchez comes back, because personally, and I think a lot of other people would agree, that Petrovic has taken the number one spot, but obviously Sanchez is going to come back and be like, well, I'm back fit again, can I play? And Pochettino is going to have that decision to make of, do we bring Sanchez back into the lineup, or do we keep with Georgie, who has been absolutely stellar since he came in? I don't think he's ever put a foot wrong. Let's move into the bads, and this is for a dual one for two people, and that is just going to be for our wingers. So I'm going to put in Madueke and Sterling. Sterling more so than Madueke for me in this one, but I just thought that it kind of fits to put them both in here, and it's just because they are, again, this middle box is usually for just inconsistency, and that's kind of what these two kind of sum up. I think that Sterling in the first half was really good, actually. I'll give him credit when credit's due. I think he was really good in the first half, because he was the one being very direct. He was being the one that was always trying to run at the defence, and you need to make those runs. You need to make something happen, and I like when wingers do that. I like when wingers are going to try and take on their man and don't just stand there and kind of pass it back. Likewise with Madueke, every time he gets on the ball, it feels like something's going to happen. But they are so inconsistent, and sometimes they just keep running into the fullback, and then they get the ball taken off them, and the attack goes nowhere, and it's so frustrating. And I think that Sterling was, again, for like, this is one of those things where like half the game was good, half the game was bad, and that's the reason why they're in the middle box, because I get so frustrated with Sterling specifically. As I said, Madueke less than Sterling, but I'm just putting this in general as like our wingers. I don't actually have like a thing that can represent our wingers, so I've just put these two in there. Sterling more so than Madueke. It's just one of those things where sometimes I look at him and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is one of the best wingers in the league. He's so good at taking people on. And then other times he just constantly gives the ball away by just running into the fullback. And it's just frustrating because it's like, we know you can do better than this. Why do you not do it consistently? As I said, that's just kind of the other kind of box, like other point I want to put in medium. I don't actually have very many medium points, and that will be my last one. I just think that our wingers, and maybe this is also due to tactical things of obviously they go out wide, and then the players in the middle don't really support them as well, and they kind of have to do everything themselves, which is a whole nother kettle of fish that I won't get into here. But yeah, I feel like the inconsistency between our wingers is so frustrating to me. Mainly Sterling, but even a bit of Madueke, and Madueke's finishing in this game wasn't particularly good either. He could have had 2 goals and didn't. But yeah, speaking of finishing and inconsistency, and I know people in the chat are going to get annoyed at me for doing this, but I'm doing this because I have such high standards for this player, and the player that I'm putting into the ugly box is Cole Palmer. And it's going to sound crazy because he's been our best player the entire season, but in this game, this was genuinely, I think, his worst ever game in a Chelsea shirt. Because, as I said, it's because this is proportionate, right? If this was a different player that wasn't our best player doing the kind of things that he did in this game, then I wouldn't be putting them in this box, because I have such high hopes for him and such high standards for him that him missing those very, very clear chances, and to be quite honest, just playing quite poor overall. Admittedly, not all his fault, I will say. Having to play as a false 9 when you're not a false 9 or a 9 at all is not great, and you can discredit Poch for that if you want to. But as I said, I genuinely thought that, like, I looked at this game, and every time the ball went to Palmer, if Palmer doesn't get the ball deep or wide right, he just doesn't look like he knows what to do. And again, he's not a number 9, so he doesn't know what to do in that position. And again, you can fault Pochettino for that if you like, but when you have those moments in games, in big games, in knockout cup competitions, you have to take them. And we were speaking about this the other day when we had the Middlesbrough game, and he missed 3 clear chances, and we said, when you have those chances, you have to take them. Obviously, he rectified that in the second leg against Middlesbrough, and we thought, okay, maybe that was just a blip. But then he comes into this game and has 2 really clear chances to score, and completely the second one I think is the worst of the 2. The first one, I understand, it's like, okay, cool, that's your first chance, you can miss your first chance. I always say you can miss your first chance, but the second one is absolutely criminal. The fact that he has not just taken it down and put it past Martinez is incredible to me, considering how he usually has so much composure. And again, this is the reason why I'm putting him in the bad box, or the ugly box rather, is because I'm so high on him, and I rate him so much that when he puts in a performance as mediocre as this, I feel like I have to call it out. And again, I know next game when we play against Liverpool, he's going to have a man of the match level performance, and everyone's going to be like, why couldn't you do this against Villa? And I know it's going to happen because he's such a good player. But again, it's just an annoyance thing for me of like, if you're going to be our best player, you're going to be our player of the season, you need to be taking those chances, and he didn't in this game. As I said, I know next game he's probably going to be in the opposite box, so I feel like I can justifiably put him in here and say he had probably the worst game other than that Middlesbrough game in a Chelsea shirt so far, and he'll be back to his best against Liverpool hopefully. I'm going to move back into some good boxes, and if no one agrees with me of this player going into the green box, then I think that we'll have an issue. I think 100% of the fans, if you ask them, will put this man in this box, and it's for Moises Caicedo, because he absolutely ran the midfield. And this was despite him getting absolutely battered off the ball every single time he got the ball. And it's funny because I said in my preview, one of the things that we should probably end up doing is is feeding the ball into Caicedo under the pressure, because he's so good under pressure and he's so press resistant, and it's just a thing we don't ever really do. We usually play the ball around the wide areas, and in this game we saw from Caicedo and a little bit of Enzo too. I don't put Enzo in this box just simply because I don't think he had. Again, it's another thing. It's high standards with Enzo, right? I feel like Enzo is such a good player that this was another game where he got under 50 passes, I believe, which is very worrying for a player that's supposed to be dictating play. So I'm just kind of like wishy-washy. I'm just not going to include him with them. But the midfield in general for us was really, really good, and we played out of pressure really, really well. And obviously Aston Villa are such a high pressing team, such a high energy team. And I said this on Twitter that it did not feel in this game like we were the team with only 3 days rest and they were the team with 12 days rest. Up until we got to the latter stage of the game and we started feeling a bit tired. But for the majority of the game, we had far more energy than them. Caicedo was running the show, absolutely cutting out everything, getting into tackles, but also getting battered over and over again. And again, he's been consistently doing this, and I think he goes under the radar so much because, again, he's a defensive player, and people don't really look into the defensive side of things in football. It's the goals and the assists and the passes that get all of the accolades, but all the gritty, dirty stuff and all of the marking of passing lanes and stuff like that you don't get to actually see and doesn't really get analysed goes under the radar. And I think that he had a very, very good game today, and hopefully it continues and he doesn't get injured again. It was also just really nice to see him on the pitch because we were worried about him after he kind of went off injured or signalled to the bench that he was feeling something. So good to see him back on there. But hopefully he I kind of thought that he probably would have got injured, and we were worried a few times because he kept getting battered every single time he got on the ball. And that leads me into my final point of this video, and everyone say it with me. It's the referees. The referee in this game was horrific, and I genuinely, I've never watched a game of football where I've genuinely gone, is this referee actually paid by the other club? Because this was so funny to me. They had such claret tinted glasses on, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, is this? Hang on, let me get him here. Is this Taylor in disguise? That's what I was thinking the entire time, because genuinely every single 50-50 went their way, and I don't know how Caicedo. If I was Caicedo, and he's such a modest guy, if I was playing in the midfield and I was getting battered over and over again by John McGinn, by Yuri Tielemans, I would be up in that ref's face being like, can you please give them a card, because this is getting ridiculous now. And this, I've said this before about the refs, is that the job of the referee, not only to officiate the game and make it fair between both teams, but is to protect the players. And he's just going to get injured if you're just letting him get battered over and over and over again. I understand it, it's Aston Villa's play style, they play high pressure, but there's got to be a limit. There's got to be a limit. There was I just seen that from Frisco. That was one of the things I saw. Someone, I think it was it Moreno? I think it was Alex Moreno, just rugby tackled one of our players to the floor, and they just ignored it. They went, it's fine, it's all right. It's not a Chelsea player doing it. It doesn't matter. And it's just like, oh man, it was just so funny because because I just felt like it was one of those things where you're just like, oh, wow, just every single time that's like, oh, he's blown the whistle, of course he has. But yeah, I won't go on about that too much. I will end this here because there's an ad playing in 27 seconds and I don't want to make you guys sit through an ad, so there we are. Thanks for joining into the stream as usual. As I said, next time this probably won't be called GBU, so this will be the last GBU, so everyone say goodbye GBU in the chat. And yeah, I'll hit the outro. I'll talk to you guys next video. But that was just my GBU match review for this week. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this match in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.